Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Hello. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 meeting of the Exeter Zoning Board of Adjustment. We are going to hear the continued case 25-42. It's the application of Alexander and Margaret Forstieri, sorry. You told me last month or a couple weeks ago, and I still butchered it. For a variance from Article 4, Section 4.3, Schedule 2, for relief from the front and rear yard setback in building coverage requirements, and from Article 5, Section 5.3.2, to permit a visual obstruction of 30 inches or greater in height within a 30-foot distance from the intersection of Aspen Way and Woodlawn Circle for the proposed construction of an addition to the existing residence located at 4 Aspen Way. The subject property is located in the R3 Single-Family Residential Zoning District and is identified as tax map parcel 54-59. I should have started with the introductions of the board. I'm Laura Davies. I'm vice chair, and I'll be acting as chair tonight. To my left is Esther Olson Murphy, a full-time member, and to her left is Martha Pennell, and to my right is Laura Montagno and Mark Lemos, alternate members. But we do have 5 voting members here tonight for you, so we can move forward. And the reason for the continuance was a problem with abutter notifications. So I'm looking to you, Barb, to let us know whether that was all straightened out.
The 2 additional abutters that were not notified at the last meeting were notified. The notices went out on June 20th. I have not received the green receipt cards back yet, but the notices were mailed.
Okay.
So we should be good to go.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So we kind of cut. I'm assuming it was your associate short last time because of the abutter situation. So would you like to present the application?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I am Darcy Pizer. I'm filling in for Derek Durbin, who is out of town and was fully prepared to present 2 weeks ago. And we appreciate your accommodation of meeting us here tonight and having a quorum for us so that we can present the application on behalf of the Forestieris. I'm going to just pass out a couple of materials for you that will be helpful, and then I will get started. Number 1 is a letter in support of the application from, it's from Kim Myers, who is wife of Jay Myers, who's here with us tonight, and will also potentially make a statement in support of the application.
Thank you.
So here is a letter from Kim that we just received, and so that is why it was not submitted earlier.
Thank you.
And then the second item is it's a density analysis that we've prepared for the application, along with some helpful photos that were not originally submitted.
Thank you.
And Barb, I'll come over and take these two as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this was your first page.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Well, as I said, I am Darcy Kaiser here on behalf of the forestieres, who will also be available to answer any questions that the board may have, if to the extent that I cannot. All right, so turning to the application, 4 Aspen Way is a relatively small property. It's 8,639 square feet. It's in the R3 district. This is a densely settled neighborhood near downtown. The property contains presently a 1.5 single-story single-family home with 1,466 square feet of total living space. The forestieres are proud residents of Exeter. They reside in the home with their 3 young children, and they actually also work from home as well. So things are crowded in the home presently. It's a corner lot with frontage on both Aspen Way and Woodlawn Circle. It's existing non-conforming with respect to the front and rear yard setbacks, and it also does not comply with section 5.3.2 of the ordinance having to do with the restriction on 30 inches or less within 30 feet of an intersection on a corner lot. So the forestieres are proposing to construct a modest addition to the home to make it more functional for their family so that they can have the living space that they want and need. They will be taking down the existing garage on the right side of the property. There's a breezeway there as well, and they're going to construct a new 1.5 story addition in its space. They're essentially bringing forward the garage up to match the front face of the house and bringing it back to match the rear face of the house with a small additional basement entryway. So except for the proposed basement entryway in the rear, the proposed addition will not extend any further into the front and rear setbacks in the existing home, and it will only exceed the allowable building coverage by approximately 1% or 139 square feet. So I will touch briefly on the criteria, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have. So starting with number 1, granting the variances will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance or to public interest. The test here is whether granting the variances will unduly or to a marked degree conflict with the basic objectives of the ordinance. The primary objective of building setbacks is to preserve the light, air, and space between buildings on abutting properties. The primary purpose of the coverage restrictions is to prevent the overcrowding of buildings on land. And it appears that the primary purpose behind Section 5.3.2 of the ordinance is to prevent visual obstructions on corner lots for safety considerations. So in this instance, aside from the basement entryway, the proposed addition will not encroach any further into the non-conforming setbacks than the existing home, and it will not create any further impact upon the light, air, and space of the affected abutting properties. With respect to Section 5.3.2, what is proposed would not create any visual obstructions for vehicles turning onto Aspen Way or Woodlawn or vice versa. We are essentially bringing the structure to meet the existing front and rear, and this will not encroach any further into the intersection than what presently exists. So additionally, if you're familiar with the property and you can see the photos, there's a thick row of 20-foot plus arborvitae lining the rear of the property that the forestieres and their neighbors maintain, and that acts as a natural buffer between the properties. So there's really going to be no visual impact upon the neighbors because they have essentially a green wall between the properties, so that will the light, air, and space between the properties will really not be affected all that much. And the new basement entryway, which will jut out a little further than what presently exists, will be situated, it's really going in the only feasible area of the property due to the design of the addition and the existing topography. There's a grade towards Woodlawn Circle, so that where that has been proposed is really the only feasible location. Additionally, the coverage will exceed the maximum required by the variance by only a negligible amount. And turning to the density analysis handout that we've prepared, you can see that the neighborhood is characterized by properties that do exceed that 25% threshold. to a large extent, and many have one or more structures that encroach into the building setbacks. Looking at 13 surrounding properties, we found that the average coverage was approximately 38%. And then with respect to section 5.3.2, looking at many of the corner lots in the area, I don't have exact measurements, but it's clear that many of those corner lots don't comply with the 30-foot envelope that's created by the corner lot restriction. So what is proposed is really reasonable within the context of surrounding properties, and it will not add any unreasonable or uncharacteristic bulking or massing within the existing non-conforming setbacks. It will really be in keeping with the character of what exists presently. In the case of New Hampshire, Belanger v. Nashua, the New Hampshire Supreme Court determined that municipalities have an obligation to have their zoning standards reflect the current character of neighborhoods, failing which the zoning boards should consider the prevailing character of a neighborhood as part of its variance analysis. So looking at the prevailing character of this neighborhood and the against the R3 building coverage and setback requirements, it's evident that they're really not reflective of the character of the neighborhood, and the neighborhood would likely predated the zoning ordinance by many years, which brings us to many non-conforming properties in the area. So for those reasons, granting the variances will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or otherwise represent any kind of threat to public health, safety, or welfare. Additionally, the forestiers have really made a conscious effort with their designs. It's very thoughtful and modest what they're proposing, and they have really tried to minimize impacts to their neighbors. And the main abutter who is impacted here tonight is here to voice his support. So that's just a testament to that's a well-designed addition. Next is the unnecessary hardship. So literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because the property has special conditions such that there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general purpose of the ordinance and its application to this property. The existing house is already non-conforming with respect to front and rear yard setbacks, in keeping with many other homes in the area. It also does not comply with section 5.3.2. Very little could be done to the house without requiring relief. It's also a corner lot, which I think there was a discrepancy in our narrative that said that the 12.5 verse 15 foot setback is more restrictive. That's not accurate. It's less restrictive, but what is more restrictive is the corner lot restriction with the 30-foot setback due to safety concerns coming around corners. So really, with considering those ordinances in application to this property, given the coverage requirements and setbacks, the property really is constrained with what it could do. Any proposal would require relief given the size of the lot and where the building envelope with the setbacks that are required by the ordinance. The existing home on the property is also very small by modern living standards. It has a basically obsolete floor plan, so the addition will give them much needed living space and an improved layout of their home to maximize its functionality. So given that many of the surrounding properties are similarly situated, that they do not comply with coverage and setback requirements because of the New Hampshire Supreme Court's holding in Belanger, the board must consider that as part of its analysis in determining whether any fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the ordinance and its application to this property. And additionally, the second item number 2 under that criteria is that the proposed use is reasonable. The proposed use will not be changing. It will continue to be utilized as a single-family residence, which is a use that is permitted by right within the R3 district. Next, substantial justice will be done by granting the variances. As the board knows, to determine whether substantial justice will be done, they must balance the equities between the rights of a private landowner and the public interest in deciding whether to grant or deny a request. And the only guiding rule is that any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. There would be really no public interest served by denying the variances, but it would constitute a serious loss to the Forestieri family if they were unable to expand their home in a reasonable manner, such as what they're requesting here tonight. As it exists, the home is very small by modern living standards, particularly for a family of 5. As you can see from the photos provided, there are, it's a well-loved home. There are toys everywhere, and they need some extra space for their 3 young children. So with respect to the coverage, at 26%, as they're requesting tonight, the property would still be well under the prevailing average of the neighborhood. So for these reasons, denying the variances would constitute a loss to the applicant that is really not outweighed by any gain to the public. And the loss to the applicant would be significant because they would not have the living space that they need, and they've tried their best to remain in the home where they want to be, the location that they want to be in. So finally, the last criteria is that the surrounding property values will not be diminished by granting the variances. The addition is very tastefully designed, won't have any tangible impact upon light, air, and space of abutting properties beyond what already exists. That we have an abutter here who will be most impacted is here to voice his support, is good evidence that surrounding property values will not be affected, and I don't think anyone could really argue that a tasteful addition such as this one would negatively affect property values. And so for those reasons, we believe that this variance application satisfies the 5 criteria and request that you move to grant the variances for the Forestieris to allow them to construct their addition. Thank you.
Do you mind if I just ask you about this table that you provided with
Sure.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So there's the address, map and lot, zoning, and then the next column is lot size?
Correct. I think it got cut off at the top.
Okay.
The column 4 is acreage. Column 5 is square footage. 6
Of the lot.
Of the lot, yep. Yes, of the lot. And 6 is bedrooms, 7 is bathrooms. And then single family, they're all single family homes except for the last one. The next, column 8, is living space, or square footage of the home.
Okay, so, and then the final column is the ratio
Yes,
of,
coverage ratio.
okay.
And the tax map shows what homes we reviewed.
Okay. So you're done presenting?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a few.
Okay.
Before I ask my questions, I just want to compliment you on the quality of your application. You have given us so much information, beautifully laid out, everything we need to be able to make this decision, and I thank you for that. My first question is, what is your intended use of the basement area of the addition?
So we'll be sacrificing.
You're gonna have to, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to come up to a microphone so that they can hear for recording.
As you can see, sorry, that's okay. Encroaching in on everything. We are sacrificing the garage in order to get the additional living space. So all of the toys that you can see in the picture, we're just looking to have access to be able to put bikes and things like that, because that's where we'll be storing most things.
And I believe you were provided with the architectural plans, but if you would like to look at a copy, I'm happy to give you those.
Okay, so that is your only access into the basement, because it says it's the only feasible area, which I understand, I guess, but there's other styles of egress that you could have put in there as opposed to seeking that much. The majority of your relief is really for that bump out.
Right. So we do have one other access point via a bulkhead. This would be to the newer area of, again, for sort of that additional utility storage of bikes, things along those lines. And the thought for that sort of doghouse access point is that we'll have kids coming in and out of it. And so the bulkhead would be a challenge for young children, to be accessing and potentially a danger.
Okay. And then the other question I had was around the corner lot, like the visual obstruction, where you indicated that there was not going to be any change to that. I understand you now are like the same front setback, right? But your obstruction is coming farther out into that 30 by 30 area. And I guess so there is more obstruction there. I drove down the road. Right now, it is even where you are now with the house, it's very difficult to see to the left. Mostly because there's gigantic shrubs that sit right there on the corner. So I guess, is there any intent to maybe offset some of the visual obstruction that the house is going to add by removing those shrubs, so that from a safety perspective, there's just more visual access? Because I feel like, it seems like a lot of that space, that visual access, is going to be reduced now with the extension of the building.
Do you mean the shrubs that are on?
Right on the corner.
Not the arborvitae?
No.
No, they're literally right on the corner of
They're on Woodlawn.
by the stop sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on Woodlawn,
Yeah.
on the Woodlawn side.
Yeah, sorry, back again. Absolutely, we could do that. I think, it's something that we note as well as we're pulling out kind of thing, and certainly we're probably overdue for a trim, much less, potentially looking at that front shrub, if that's something that would make the board feel more comfortable with the variance.
Well, the ordinance talks about, I think, 30 inches in height, so maybe cutting back is enough. I don't have strong feelings about that, but
That's fine, whatever the ordinance is, but it's definitely taller than 30 now.
Do you currently use the garage for storage of cars?
No,
No? Okay.
it's all kid stuff.
So it wouldn't be like you're pushing more cars out because you're already going to
No,
be...
exactly,
Yeah.
yep.
It's not like you're adding an additional car to the driveway or anything, so...
Yes, yep.
All right.
And I would just point out that to be in compliance with that 30-foot setback, given that they're already not, that would be a very true hardship, because there's, with respect to this lot, but as
Demolish
most of the
part of
lots in that area.
Yeah, no,
it's-
understood.
It's hard to comply with.
anybody else?
Martha's good, I'm good.
You all done?
Yeah,
Okay.
questions?
I'm good. That's fine.
All right, well, I think unless you have anything you want to add, we'll go to closed session and
We
deliberate.
want to open up the public session?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Came all the way down here.
Mr. Meyer, I apologize, I almost left you out. Would you like to
Sure.
speak on the application?
Yeah. So, hi, Jay Myers, 10 Woodlawn Circle. I am the rear abutter, and you have the letter from my wife, and she shared that with me, so I'm aware of what she said, and I'll give voice to that in terms of our support, as described in talking with the Forest Areas, and what I understand the architecture to be, and what they're doing to add space to their home. In my opinion, I'm in full support of this, and I hope you are considering the positive impact that it'll have for them and for our neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And there is nobody else, so I think we're good there.
Public?
Okay, so I think we'll go into deliberations. I just want to say that I drove through the neighborhood, and if there were a corner to have maybe a little bit less sight distance, this is a pretty quiet corner. So from that perspective, I think it's a good thing, and I agree with the information, just from a visual observation, that there is a lot of nonconformance already in the neighborhood, and this would be completely in keeping with that. So, anybody else have any issues to discuss?
I guess my only question is, by giving the setback variance in the back for the dog shed, fast forward 5-10 years, house gets sold. If anybody wanted to expand even more, they would still have to come back for an additional variance, right? Because they would have to stay within the existing, because it's a non-conforming lot, and they would have to stay within what's already been built. And they wouldn't just be able to bump out that whole back.
Because the relief has already been granted, is what you're
Correct,
saying.
that's my question.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think whoever makes a motion, if in favor, that it would be wise to say as proposed, so that we kind of cover that, but in general, they would have to seek new relief anyway,
Require
Yep.
coming back.
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
All right.
Anybody else have anything?
Do we need to read through the criteria, or are we okay with what's been?
I don't think there's not a lot of
Okay.
people worried about it, so,
Okay.
and we don't
Right,
seem to be
that's fair.
particularly worried about it, so I don't think it's really
as you stated, the application really covers
everything.
all of it very, very thoroughly, so I think we can kind of reference that we don't have any issue with the criteria as outlined in the application. So, I think we're good.
Okay.
But I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good point. We do need to kind of make sure that we cover that. So would anybody like to make a motion?
I'm working through it. If you want to work through it too, you're more than welcome.
I'll work through it, just catch me if I miss anything.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we approve the application of Alexander and Margaret Forstieri for a variance from Article 4, Section 4.3, Schedule 2 for relief from front and rear yard setback, with the rear yard setback being specific to the documentation and the layout that was provided with the application. And building coverage requirements. And we will also approve Article 5, Section 5.3.2 to permit a visual obstruction of 30 inches in height within 30 foot distance from the intersection of Aspen Way and Woodlawn Circle for the proposed construction of an addition to the existing residence located at 4 Aspen Way.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. So, any discussion? Any concerns about the way the motion's phrased or anything like that? You're good? Okay. Sure. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So there you go. It passed unanimously.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the second.
Oh, you're very
No
welcome.
problem. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jack. We got
You
meeting
enjoy your new
minutes.
addition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now you can go,
Swing on by for a barbecue. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you, Happy 4th.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
No problem.
And for what you do.
What'd she say?
and what you do.
And for what you do. Yeah.
Thank you
I
for
think
what you
for
do.
what we do, like
Oh,
just
for what we do.
volunteering
Oh,
here.
yeah. Okay. I agree. That was a nice application. Made it
Like that.
easy. Well documented. Okay, so,
Can I ask a question about the minutes before we go to that?
yes, you
There
may.
were a limited number of us involved in this quite complex
Yeah.
layout. Do we want to wait and have everybody who was sitting for that here to discuss them? Because Kevin's not here and he's
He's
in here a lot.
He's quoted
He's
a
a
lot.
big factor. Yes, he
So
was.
I don't want to approve them and then him come back and be like, no, that's not what I meant, or I did not, I don't think.
I
I
that's-"
think
didn't
it's
say
wa-
that, and it's important, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wise. Barbara, will that cause an issue?
What was that?
If we wait
if-
till Kevin comes back to do the minutes, because he's so
Minutes?
It's in
featured
these.
prominently within the minutes, so.
If we wait until our next when is our next meeting? Is our next meeting,
Well, we did receive a request for rehearing for Riverwoods, or for the pickpocket of Butter Group. And that is on the agenda for the 15th. just the request for the rehearing.
Of
So
July?
Yeah.
if you do the minutes first, maybe at the beginning of the meeting, and that way have a vote on them.
And that
Okay.
way Bob can actually
Does
take
that
praise
work?
too, so.
I would suggest that they probably should be voted on before you decide after the meeting.
I think that's wise. I also think it's wise to have
Have
Kevin
Kevin, yeah.
involved, though.
Okay.
I was just going to ask something. Oh, have you heard from,
Hopefully we'll have Kevin here.
well, I was just going to ask if you've heard if Kevin will be here. You haven't spoken to him about being available for that date?
He's not mentioned anything.
Okay.
I know he's out of town now, but
Okay.
I can shoot him an email and check to see what his availability is, just to let him know that it's probably a good.
We need him.
to be-
Yeah, that would be good if you could get in touch with him, particularly a little bit early. I intend to be there.
I recuse.
I guess I'm there.
I can probably be there. I'll be jet lagged, but I'll be there. So,
Attaboy. Thank you. That's a trooper for us.
Our
Okay.
new person will need to be here too, because I think he was.
John.
Because you, John, yeah, because you, Martha, you recuse, I recuse,
I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
so does Bob.
Yes,
So-
we need,
So you need
our-
everybody
And
else.
John, the new alternate, had a conflict tonight, but I can check with him to see what his availability is to make sure we have 5.
That
Yep.
sounds like a good idea, too.
Or try to have 5.
yep.
Okay. Okay, yeah,
I'll
if
do
you
that
don't
tomorrow
mind,
later.
that would be great.
So is a rehearing on whether the board has
So that's in 2
jurisdiction?
weeks.
They're requesting us, they're,
To rehear whether the
Right,
board
yeah.
has jurisdiction?
and both things.
They've requested a rehearing on the decision made
Yeah.
You didn't hear the
In-
second part of the
in,
request.
right,
Okay.
which, so it was the jurisdiction decision.
Right.
right. Should we
So-
adjourn so that we're no longer
I
being
think,
recorded?
do we need to vote on whether or not to delay the minutes since it was on the agenda?
I don't, did we last week?
And we made a motion to,
Okay, I
Put it-
move to postpone approving the minutes until the July 15th zoning board meeting.
a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Just in case.
Yep.
Now we're safe.
Because we need to be careful on this one. Okay. So,
And then I'll put a note on mine to say approve before.
So-
Review before. Just so we don't lose sight of that.
so does that mean you're chairing it? Because-
No, I'm just writing
Oh.
it down, so we don't forget it.
Aren't you
I'm
chairing
helping
it?
No. I've
Okay.
shared my share.
I know you have. Okay. So it's going to fall to me then again.
Yep.
So I'm sure River was, anyway. Any motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, We invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.